Hello and welcome to yet another episode of CarWale's Driver Car series. And what we've done this time is that we've stuck to the same recipe as last time because we enjoyed how it came together quite well. So we still got an SUV, we still have an automatic gearbox, and we are still powered by diesel. What is different is that our hero today is heavier and bigger than the previous SUV, and it also, crucially, powers all its four wheels instead of just the front wheels. Now, we have driven this car on the road as CarWale, but I personally haven't. So it should be interesting to see how all of this comes together on this tight, not so well surfaced road. But before we find out if Mercedes has managed to work its magic on the new GLC, a word about our partner. We have joined hands with Indian Oil for this season and with its premium and performance-centric diesel brand XTRAGREEN for this particular episode. XTRAGREEN, says Indian Oil, boasts of a higher cetane number, which means better and more complete combustion. Plus, better the combustion, the lesser the emissions, and of course, better the fuel efficiency as well. Indian Oil also claims XTRAGREEN helps in quicker ignition. With no spark plug in a diesel engine, the fuel's ability to self-ignite quickly plays a big role in the engine's performance. This also means easier and quicker starting in less than ideal scenarios. XTRAGREEN also has some added ingredients that help keep the fuel injectors clean, and it has lubricating properties which should result in reduced wear and losses of the engine in the long run. This is the new Mercedes GLC in the 220D 4MATIC guise. It uses a 4-cylinder 2-liter diesel engine that produces almost 200 bhp and an enticing 440 Nm of peak torque. The engine is mated to a 9-speed automatic, which then drives all four wheels as part of the 4MATIC setup. The wheels, meanwhile, are 19-inch units running 235 section tires. Mercedes says that GLC can get to 100 km/h from a standstill in around 8 seconds, and if the throttle pedal is kept mashed to the floor, it will eventually hit 219 km/h. So it's not slow by any means. It is nonetheless a big car. It measures over 4.7 meters in length, it is almost 2 meters wide, and it sits on a pretty long wheelbase of almost 3 meters. Figures that indicate that the GLC might not be as agile or playful as we would like a driver's car to be. And this is before we have factored in its 2-ton curb weight. But Mercedes has surprised us with its ability to take these seemingly large specs and shrinking them into a dynamically able car on the road. Now, as we mentioned earlier, it is a potent engine that powers the GLC in the 220D guise, but it's not an engine that you'd go wow listening to the output figures. But 440 Newton meters of torque is quite good, and you can feel that on a road like this. Of course, we've set it in sport mode because we want to get the most out of it, and it is a quiet engine, but it is potent. The grunt coming out of corners is excellent. You don't really have to really work the throttle hard. You just, the first initial bit of the throttle too, there's so much go that comes that you have to be careful about how quickly you're approaching the next corner. So you gotta adjust your understanding or your perception of how quickly you're approaching the corner that's coming. So it might not feel that fantastic on paper, but on the road, on a tight winding road like this, it feels pretty alive. The GLC uses a 9-speed automatic, and it's got these pedal shifters, but like I said earlier, we're driving in sport mode, and so far I've not felt the need, and that's great. But these pedal shifters, you can go through them, and 9-speed means that there is a higher level of involvement that's dialed in because there is more that you can do, plus it responds. So when I downshift and I click, it actually does downshift because it's got quite a few ratios to go through, and because it's a diesel, there is torque, so I can short shift and still I get enough grunt getting to the next corner. So a 9-speed automatic, I must say, is a more involving setup. than, let's say, a 6-speed automatic where you might keep clicking on the pedal shifters, but nothing really happens because you're just not in the right rev range. On this one, you always seem to be in the rev range where you can downshift, upshift, and play with the gearbox. The GLC is a near 2-ton car. It is heavy and it sits on a wheelbase that's almost 3 meters, so it is long as well. But the way it responds to steering inputs makes it surprisingly agile, and I honestly wasn't expecting that. In fact, we had a discussion whether it has rear wheel steer. It feels that kind of agile, and sure, it's not a feel some steering, but in terms of how it's weighted and how it responds, the linearity, the fluidity, and how easy it is to place the car exactly where you want, because you know how much turn of the steering will make the front, or the car react. So you can place it exactly where you want it. You can lean on the steering, you can exploit it, experiment it, and so it is a wonderful steering to use. Like I said, it's not feelsome, but the way it reacts and what you can do with it, achieve with it, it gets you hooked, gets you involved. You know what to do, so it is a fun thing to use. Now, the kind of fluidity, the kind of predictability and involvement that you get with the steering on the GLC is well complemented, or is reflected in the handling of the GLC as well. Yes, sure, it's heavy, but again, Mercedes has done a wonderful job to ensure that it doesn't really feel that heavy. Now, this is not a stiff car, and so there is plenty of body movement when you're pushing it as hard as we are, and so you do get that whole thing where it settles down and it's rolling on its haunches, and you get that sort of feel, but it doesn't feel like you're losing grip. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel unpredictable, it doesn't feel unsafe, so you end up pushing it harder than this size of car should ideally be allowed to put. And the only thing is that you can feel some of that weight when you are stringing an S section together, and if you're not careful, then chances are that it will move from one side to the other, and you'd have to catch it from time to time. But again, it just, I just can't believe how well it handles for the kind of the size and the weight of this car. And again, the steering, you just turn it and the front end just points and bites, and you're exactly where you want to be. This is certainly more entertaining than I had imagined. Much like the previous diesel auto SUV that we did, this one too is way above my expectation in terms of handling, especially on this tighter, challenging, uneven road surface where suspension and chassis and steering, all of that needs to come together really well. And then the drive out of corners, because of that, the power going to all 4 wheels is so potent that even though the road is broken, you can just get on it and you don't have to deal with understeer. You don't have to deal with, maybe not so much oversteer either. But again, it is a playful car, so it's not like it will. If you want to get into a corner and back it in a little, you can do that, and which for this size and weight is really surprising and fun and enjoyable. Now, this, like we mentioned, sends power to all 4 wheels, and that has its own set of advantages in terms of when you're exiting corners. Now, the surface is broken, and if you were in a front wheel drive car, for instance, over this broken surface, trying to get on the power early would only result in understeer. Not on this one. It grips, and you can get on the power earlier in the corner before you've even come to, I wouldn't say apex on a road like this, but still, you can get on the power a lot earlier without the threat of running wide. And you can feel how that power is distributed very nicely. And then, now this is a neutral handling car, but it can be plenty playful if you want it to be. Not so much on corner exits, because even though we're driving with the ESP off, that ESP never really is off, and it comes on when you really get on the power hard and the rear starts to come out. It will just cut in. And but what you can do with this is back it into a corner, and that gives you some amount of oversteer, which is quite enjoyable, because you back it in and then you get on the throttle with the power going to all four wheels. You get such a strong drive and safe drive out of the corner that you can keep doing that. Of course, it'll ruin your tires, but it's so much fun to be able to do that. So yeah, GLC in handling terms, I mean, it's way better than I expected. Now, with all that heft going around, you might not feel it from behind the wheel, but you cannot beat physics. And to haul all of that weight in, you do need good brakes, and the GLC has it. So in terms of feel, you can use your left foot and balance the braking. You can brake deeper into corners. You can carry a fair amount of trail braking. You can also use it to change the attitude of the car. So suddenly you're finding that you want the tail to come out a bit, and with the bite and progression and feel that the brakes offer, you can do that. So we've been going up and down this road, even coming downhill, using the brakes quite heavily. We're not really witnessing any sort of brake fail. So I guess German cars, dynamically, there is very little that you can fault, and on this one it's the same. Yeah, it does get a little spongy towards the top, but again, the bite doesn't really disappear or feel good. So yeah, it is an entertaining car, and capable, no doubt about that. If I'm completely honest, given what I saw on paper, given what I read in our own reviews, and given what this car is supposed to be and do, I wasn't honestly expecting it to be a lot of fun as a driver's car around tight twisties, around broken roads. Yeah, I knew it would be capable. I knew it would do the job, but I didn't think that I would put a smile on my face, but surprised me, it did. You honestly cannot feel the near 2-ton weight of this car. You just can't, whether you're going uphill, downhill, whether you're threading fast corners, slow corners, whether you're backing it into corners, whether you're exiting corners as fast as you dare, or if you're getting really hard on the brakes to make the corners. It just doesn't feel as heavy, and that was the first surprise for me. The second was the way the engine and the gearbox perform. Of course, it's a diesel, so you have a lot of torque, so you don't really need to bother with constantly revving it, or you can just ride the mid-range. And then when it's coupled to this 9-speed, you can actually get involved with the clicking of the pedal shifters, and it makes a difference. So you can downshift, upshift, depending on what you want to do, and still, it's an involved kind of thing instead of just leaving it in D or S and then just, sorry, D and S here, it's got the shifter here, and just concentrate on the steering and the brake and the hand. So that was another surprise. And then, of course, brakes for a car this heavy, when pushed through this kind of tests, this road, it's not meant to do this day in and day out. And even then, to be able to handle all of this is really very impressive. And the fact that it is playful, the fact that you can get it to oversteer from time to time, and which just puts a nice smile to your face, is just a, I don't know, cherry on top, or a really important ingredient, I know, but it is. I'd recommend the GLC if you like driving. Yes, in the 220 guys, yes, take it. I mean, you won't walk away disappointed. In fact, like me, you'd probably walk away surprised and with a smile on your face.